Hello and welcome to week 2 of Wilmington University's hybrid and online training course. This week we will continue looking at organization in the online environment, and we'll also delve into online course planning and design. Additionally, we'll explore the use of authentic assessment in the online environment. At the end of this week, you'll be able to analyze the role of the online facilitator and develop strategies to implement, encourage, and manage interaction in the online classroom. Demonstrate appropriate planning considerations, guidelines, and procedures to establish a productive, engaging online environment. And finally, you'll be able to organize and sequence learning materials in an online course. Activities and assignments for this week include readings and resources, a discussion board post, creating a weekly outline for an online course, and the week 2 observation sheet. Let's look more closely at the weekly planning outline with assessments and resources assignment. For this assignment, please open the document and read the instructions carefully. You'll use the objectives from the generic syllabus for the course that you chose last week, and you will plan 1 week's worth of content for an online course. Please use only the objectives from the generic syllabus, and think about which objectives you can cover in the equivalent of a 5-hour class. This planning outline is based on the backward design model, where you first list your objectives or outcomes, then you find assessments which are used to determine students' competencies in the objectives and outcomes. And finally, you find resources that students will use to successfully complete the assessments and ultimately meet the objectives and outcomes of the course. As an example, you will list the objectives in the Learning and Objectives Outcomes box. And again, these objectives and outcomes come from the generic syllabus. And please include these objectives from the generic syllabus verbatim, as they will be the published objectives and outcomes for the course that you've chosen to use. Next, we'll look at and describe the assessments that you'll use to determine acceptable evidence of competency in the objectives or outcomes. Be sure to describe the assessment that you will use. Simply writing test is not sufficient. Think about describing the assessment in terms that will refer it back to the objectives. And assessments might include written essays or research papers, projects, presentations. And think back to the section on authentic assessment in this week's readings for ideas as well. Next, please enter a discussion board question for the week. Remember, discussion questions can assess objectives as well. And be sure to look at the discussion stems section of the Bloom's taxonomy document that is attached to this assignment for ideas about how to ask effective questions. Finally, the resources section is where you will plan the readings and learning experiences that will bring students to the desired competency level and ultimately help them meet the objectives and outcomes for the week. Here you can provide links to websites, videos, tutorials, multimedia presentations, and other resources that support students' achievement of the objectives. If you have any questions about how to complete this assignment, please contact your hybrid and online training course facilitator. And finally, please remember that the weekly discussion board, the initial post is due by Thursday at midnight. Response post to your fellow participants is due by Sunday at midnight. And the weekly outline and assessments and resources assignment, along with the week 2 observation and reflection sheet, are both due by Sunday at midnight. Have a great week.